Hello and welcome to Bud's RPG Review, where I give my thoughts on role-playing games, card games and board games. Today's review is 2014's Cold Harvest for Call of Cthulhu 7th edition by Chaosium. There will be spoilers from this point on, so stop here if you want to play this. Cold Harvest is a 64-page scenario set within the backdrop of Stalin's Soviet Russia. It is set in October 1937, and the investigators play the part of members of the secret police, the Narodny Commissariat Vnutrenrichtel, or NKVD for short. They've been instructed to investigate Krasivyi Oktyabr 3, a Sovkhoz or Soviet farm, whose production has dropped recently. They're informed that someone from the Sovkhoz has written a letter to the NKVD to inform that a family there have been taking part in un-Soviet-like activities. The investigators are charged with journeying to Krasivyi Oktyabr 3 to find out what is going on and to deal with it, be it that sending the accused people to a forced labour camp, or even executing them should the need arise. The journey to the Sovkhoz is a trek across bad terrain with terrible weather and bad luck assaulting them from all sides. When the investigators arrive, they find the village in a state of uncaring disarray. The next step is to speak to everyone there to find out what's going on. Unknown to the investigators, a Loigor is living under the nearby river Samara, and has for some time now been psychically leeching from the residents of the Sovkhoz. This has resulted in the residents slowly going mad and manifesting physical oddities. As the investigators work their way through the village, they discover they are collectively depressed and lackadaisical, not to mention somebody has been murdered just before they arrive. The influence of the Loigor is displayed by ever-escalating telekinetic events that start off small, with things like doors being slammed, to major like trucks being flipped. Also thrown into the mix is a family that have fled the Sovkhoz and become completely corrupted. The scenario has the option to end with the Loigor manifesting, but the moral decision on what the investigators do with the villagers seems to be the more engaging one. In conclusion, I mostly enjoy this scenario. There are, however, a few things that really bothered me. Firstly, the inhabitants of the Sovkhoz are detailed twice, once near the beginning, which details how to play them, and then fully statted out near the end. I can't help feeling these could have been combined to tidy the scenario up. My general feeling is that the book itself has a fairly messy layout. Also, the 4 blank pages near the end made me madder than it should have. Maybe a guide to decoding Cyrillic would have been a good way to fill this empty space. The other thing is that the scenario seems to straddle full-blown political intrigue and cosmic horror, but I felt that it never properly put a foot firmly into either camp. That being said, the setting and politics of the era are interesting, and the investigators are put in an unenviable position of power. The Sovkhoz and its inhabitants are fairly well detailed, although I feel a bit of work would be needed to be done by the keeper to fully realise a living, breathing community. The choice of a Loigor as the villain of the piece is an odd one given the creature's unmythos-like appearance, but the telekinetic abilities escalating the way they do throughout the investigator's time in the Sovkhoz make its suitability more understandable. The pre-gen characters are all good too, although there does seem to be some disconnect between the character portraits and the descriptions. I also like the suggested other scenarios to run to make this a short campaign of Soviet intrigue, and it was interesting to note that some of them were not even Chaosium products. Also, the cover art is good, as is the internal art, which is used sparingly. The player handouts are also very good. The conversion guide, appendix and explanation of Russian terms are good and also needed. So to the score. Although it was messy, the idea is a decent one, so I would give this a solid 7.5 out of 10. If you enjoyed this review, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Also, don't forget to check out my other reviews. Bud out.